You don't know how much I care. Throw me into the deepest ocean, and I promise you I'll swim through the highs and the lows. You will find me, and just know that I'm here to stay. Like every wave will find its way back into the big blue. I will find my way to you, and like a harvest moon, turn from darkness into gold. That's when you'll know that you'll find home. So here we go now, slowly open up your eyes. Let me be your guide. Stepping stones together. Do you see?
So, I did a thing.
She went shopping again.
Why do you always have to tell on me? Yeah, I went shopping. I was always intrigued by crocheting or crocheting, however you say that, but I have never done it in my life. But then the other day I came across this story. This girl apparently also lives in a van, and she made this blanket, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. So I went to Spotlight and I got some yarn and some hooks and stuff like that, and I started crocheting. I wanted to show you the progress I made on the blanket. And I'm kind of stuck right now. I don't know how to finish this row because everything I have tried just looks weird. I also don't know how to do the next row because the creator of the pattern is highly frustrating. She did make some YouTube tutorials on how to make this, but she keeps skipping rows. She just says, oh, the next 2 rows, they are too easy. I don't need to show you that. Like, she would never expect that somebody with 0 crocheting experience would even attempt to make this blanket. And it's so frustrating, so annoying. And then yesterday I was working till like 2 a.m. because I had this brilliant idea to finally update my Czech YouTube channel, where I told them, I haven't been there since like April, and I told them where I have been, and I told them about this English YouTube channel, but then quite a few people requested Czech subtitles. Oh my god! So I have discovered that YouTube does not automatically add Czech subtitles to my videos. And so I have to make them myself. Can you see that? I have to go into YouTube Studio and select the video I want to create subtitles for. Then I open the auto-generated English subtitles and fix up all the mistakes that usually takes me about 20 minutes. And then I save it. I copy it and I give it to Claude because ChatGPT cannot do it. Claude will also take ages to do it, so I usually go and do something else in the meantime. And when he finally spits it out, I have to go through it again and fix all the mistakes. Claude's Czech is actually not too good. And if I fail to remind him that van is not a Czech word, then I have to go and fix it every time I say the word van, which is very often. And then I have to go back to the studio, add another language, select Czech, and it will want me to fill a Czech title and description, and also upload Czech subtitles. And then I just hit publish and it's done, and that all takes me about 1 hour per video. I got a few not so nice comments from some Czech people, and I am not going to lie, it's not unexpected. I understand how frustrating it can be when somebody stops posting on YouTube when you got invested in their story. It happened to me a few times as well with other creators. But I have never been someone who would be posting regularly. Being away for a few months is nothing new to my channel, to my Czech channel. And I feel like people often underestimate how much work goes into these videos. I know it looks like, oh, it's just a 10-minute video. How long can it take? 1 hour? In reality, it's more like 10 or 20 hours because only very few people can sit down without any preparation and talk for 10-15 minutes, make it make sense and also keep it entertaining. And even these people, they still have to edit the video, they have to get music, b-roll, create description, title, thumbnail, and sometimes even write subtitles. So even people who genuinely enjoy YouTube may end up quitting or taking a break for a while because life gets in the way and we all need to pay bills, and that's the sad truth. I moved to English because I got way bolder in that language. Way more people speak English than Czech. And also I could just tell my story from the very beginning, which gave me enough material to be able to post every week, almost every week, and get this channel off the ground. And I understand how it might look from the outside like the Czech audience was good enough for me when I didn't dare to speak English. But at the same time, I have to ask, good enough for what? I have never received any money from YouTube or any gifts from my audience. The only thing I was receiving was the connections, which I do value for sure. But I feel like the people who really see me as their virtual friend are not the same people who wrote the comments. My people moved channels, and I'm so happy to be seeing them in the comments now, and I really appreciate you, especially the ones of you who do not speak English, because if somebody is willing to watch something with subtitles just because of me, I am very honored. And that's why I am putting all the extra work into these subtitles. It means a lot that you are here. There is also the question of whether it makes sense to make YouTube videos in a language that's spoken on the other side of the planet. I am not going to lie, I don't feel like 100% Czech anymore because I left more than 17 years ago and I haven't even visited once since 2012. So I have no idea what's going on in the Czech Republic. What is the political situation? What are the series on TV, new actors, actresses? What music is playing on the radio? What are the wages? What are the prices? But at the same time, I will also never be a true Kiwi or Australian, despite holding the right passport. So I'm somewhere in between. But I figured the English channel will allow me to connect with people all over the world, including the Czech Republic. But at the same time, I can connect with people right here, people that I can actually meet in real life. And if it wasn't for this channel, I wouldn't have, for example, met Leanne from Aussie Vanlife, and I'm pretty sure I will meet many more people, especially once I finally leave this dolphin paradise, which may be sometime in May. The other night I went for a walk and the parrots were having a conference. And suddenly I was thinking how much I would just love to sit again on a meadow somewhere in the Czech Republic and listen to our songbirds. Let's listen to it for a minute. This is just so nostalgic for me, and I don't know why, because my childhood was actually really terrible and I do not really want to be transported back there, but at the same time there is something about it that makes me almost emotional. My relationship to my country is pretty complicated. While I realize it's a beautiful country, Prague is one of the most beautiful cities in the world. Czech people are awesome, they have the same humor, I love it. But nothing good ever happened to me in there, unfortunately. I have already talked about my difficult childhood in one of the previous videos, but of course that was not the whole story. We were also very poor. When my father left, he paid almost nothing for alimony, and at the same time he left my mother with a mortgage on her house. I'm saying her house because that house was fully paid by her parents. My father brought nothing to the marriage, and yet when he left a lot of debt behind, which my mother had to pay. He was an entrepreneur at heart, and he had all these brilliant ideas. I remember One year he thought it would be a good idea to buy a truck of eggs just before Easter, because for the holidays people will be buying eggs and the price will go up and he will get rich. That was his thinking. But unfortunately the price of eggs actually went down, and the eggs my father bought ended up on the manure pile. Am I saying it right? Manure. He wouldn't hesitate to take out loans for these awesome ideas. My mother, I must say, wasn't much better. She would always buy these fashionable breeds of dogs with the idea that she will sell puppies for profit, which almost never worked out. She always ended up spending more money than she got back. She would even get breeds that she really didn't like the Maltese dog, Chihuahua. Still, we were very poor, and I often didn't get to join school trips. I was lacking clothing and proper food. I never had to starve, but my food was sometimes kind of questionable. I remember I would come back from school and I would cook my to-go soup, which I ate every day. And it would be a stock cube, potatoes, garlic, marjoram, and a little bit of flour to make it thick. Thankfully, potatoes we had for free because we were helping a local farmer with harvest every year. Is that called a harvest? I'm not sure if it really paid off for him or if it was a charity from his side. On top of that, I was also severely bullied by children in our village. It wasn't just one or two, it was a whole group. I think the reason was that people were not talking about my family very nicely at home in front of the children. Not only was my mother a bit weird, as we already talked about in the previous video, but also my parents were the very first ones to get divorced in a very small old-fashioned village, so I think that was another reason. And the kids kind of took it as a permission to treat me differently, and it escalated from there. I went to a little village school, and because there was not that many children, we would share the classroom with another class, and our teacher would teach both classes simultaneously. And the class we were sharing with was 2 years younger than us, and even these little children, when they saw how my classmates treated me, they were like monkey see, monkey do. And I generally wouldn't stand up for myself because I was used to being mistreated from home, and standing up there was not an option. So it kind of didn't even occur to me that I could do that until one day I remember this 8-year-old came to my desk and he started messing around with me. And I just had this realization that, wow, why are you letting him to do that? He's so much smaller than you. You don't have to take it. And I snapped. I grabbed him by his hair and I threw him across the classroom. And of course he cried and he ran to the teacher, but the teacher did absolutely nothing. She never protected me, so it would have been weird if she protected him. And that kid never came near me again. My mother never helped me when I came home crying from school. She would be saying things like, oh, you must have deserved it somehow, you must have done something to them. For many years she would do nothing, but one day I came home again crying. I was soaked in pee, not my own. And I had a huge bruise under my knee. And that was the day when my mother finally went and told off my 2 biggest bullies. And from then life became a little bit easier. I objectively know Czech Republic is a beautiful country and it's not its fault, it's not the fault of the people, but at the same time I cannot help not to connect a lot of trauma to it, and that's why I didn't even want to hear about going back there. I still connect with Czech people the easiest because we have the shared language and culture, and a lot of my friends in New Zealand and in Australia are Czechs. Now that I am almost fully healed, I'm noticing that there are things I would like to experience again, like sitting on a meadow listening to the songbirds, the smell of pine forests, visiting places where I grew up, and I cannot even imagine how surreal it would be after all those years to be somewhere where everyone spoke my language. My bestie, who goes to the Czech Republic every year, offered that one year I could come with her, and at first I didn't want to hear about it, but now I think maybe one year I will. Not this year, because this year I'm going to swim with whales in Tonga, but maybe the next or the one after. I am getting quite open to it. Hannah said she will show me around my own country, and to be fair, I do need showing around, because growing up poor I didn't see much of the Czech Republic. There's a lot of places I have never visited. Actually, I have seen more of Slovakia than I have seen of the Czech Republic. That's because my mother loved going to these illegal dog fox fighting competitions. I feel kind of tempted to explain what these competitions entailed, but at the same time that would be a very dark video, and I don't want to traumatize anyone. But let me know in the comments if you were interested. Maybe I will make it one day. That would definitely be at least a 10-minute video, maybe 20. But the paradox is, even though there was this extreme animal cruelty going on, those were actually one of the best days of my life back then when I was a kid, because not because of what was going on, but other people would also bring their children, and it would usually be somewhere in the middle of a forest or some remote area in the Slovakian Tatra mountains, and me and the other kids would just roam around all day long and play, and they didn't know me, they didn't know I was the punching bag for the whole village, so they treated me nicely, and we slept in tents, and it was like camping. It was like one of my favorite memories, despite what was going on there. Only as an adult I have finally understood all the cruelty that was encompassing these experiences, and I had to work really hard not to blame my child self for being a part of these. Anyway, so yeah, I'm coming to the conclusion that maybe I would like to spend a month or so in the Czech Republic, but I'm definitely not coming back for good, because there's no ocean, there's no dolphins because of the weather, van life. I love my little life here, and I would not change it for anything. I didn't really mean to say all of this when I started recording these bits and pieces for this video. It just somehow crystallized by itself. Maybe some higher power wanted me to say it. Maybe here is somebody who needed to hear it. The feeling of not belonging anywhere, being somewhere in between. Maybe you can relate. When I first started my Czech YouTube channel, it was also to practice the Czech language, because at that time I didn't speak Czech at all. My boyfriend was Kiwi, our flatmates and friends, they all spoke English, and I was just losing the ability to say r. You know, 333 stříbrných stříkaček stříkalo přes 333 stříbrných střech. It's just, the tongue is a muscle, and if you don't use it in a way, you will lose the ability. Even though I could hear what I'm saying doesn't sound right, I couldn't do anything, because the tongue just wouldn't twist that way anymore. And you should have seen the hate I got from my fellow Czech people for forgetting my native language. Thankfully now it's much better. I'm using Czech much more again, even if it's just over voice messages. It's really like you don't belong anywhere anymore when you spend a long time away. Or maybe it's just a very Czech thing to be confused about where you belong. Because even our Czech national hymn starts with the words, "Where is my home? Where is my home?" That's gonna be all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Bye! Kde domov můj, kde domov můj, voda hučí po lučinách, bury šumí po skalinách, sadě sklí se jara květ,
seem to go, that's when you'll know that you'll find home. So here we